Hi everyone, Polly from thefitmumformula.com here. Today I want to talk to you about calorie counting and should you be doing it. Alternatively, should you be counting something like points like they use on Weight Watchers or syns like they use on Slimming World. Now first of all, a word about points and syns. They're not actually a thing in the nutrition world. They're made up by these companies, but what they are is they are a way of basically portion and calorie controlling food. So you're given a certain amount in the same way that you have a certain calorie allowance a day, and you eat within that range and you will maintain or gain or lose weight according to what your goals are. I do take issue with the fact that they also allocate certain foods as free. I don't know what the science is behind these foods, because they're not just the things that you might assume were free because they're very low calorie, like vegetables. There is other foods as well. So I don't actually know the reason certain foods are free. And I was going to look it up and I was going to do some research into this, but actually I decided it was a bit pointless because I disagree with it anyway and I wouldn't advise it. So I couldn't be bothered to go and look up and try and figure out how they work out the points and syns value of foods. But essentially what it is, it's a way of counting calories and restricting your food. And I think the reason sometimes it doesn't work with those companies is because it is a confusing system, because as I said, it's not a real nutrition thing. You wouldn't learn that at university or college if you're studying nutrition. And there's the issue of these free foods, which you apparently can eat unlimited, but of course every food has calories. Even celery and lettuce has calories, albeit not very many. So if you were to overeat calories of any food, you're going to gain weight, and the opposite way is true obviously too. If you eat fewer calories than you need, regardless of what those foods are, you will lose weight. Now, does that mean you should be counting calories? Well, I definitely think there's benefit to having an awareness of calories and having a rough idea of what's in various things, or just simply whether they're very calorie dense. So there's a lot of calories in a small amount, or not very calorie dense. So there's not very many calories in a large amount. Because one issue I see, a common mistake that people make, is eating very nutritious foods that are very healthy, got sort of lots of nutrients in them, but they are very high calorie. Typically these are things like avocados and nuts, and yes, they're very nutritious, but they are also very high calorie. Another thing I've heard before is somebody saying they switched from white rice to brown rice or to whole grain rice. Now that's a nutritious change. Whole grains always offer more benefits for most people than refined versions, but nevertheless it doesn't change the calories in the food, and calories still are king when it comes to weight management. You have to control your calories. Does that mean you need to meticulously count them though? Well, this is where I think you can be quite smart about it, and you don't necessarily need to be very, very strict on counting every calorie. In fact, I discourage my mums on my Body Back program to count any calories really, and to focus on portion control. And if you do this the right way, you actually naturally reduce your calories without counting them, and then you don't have to be a slave to the calculator and the scales. You can enjoy food, you can see food as food rather than numbers, which I think is a much healthier way psychologically of approaching food as well. At the end of the day, it is for enjoyment, it is for nourishment, and it is a normal part of life. We shouldn't, for thousands of years people ate without even scales being invented, and they managed to stay reasonably healthy. And the reason that is because they were in touch with their body, they ate when they were hungry, and they stopped when they were full. Now these days, of course, with all the yo-yo dieting and the confusion and the processed foods we have, we've kind of lost that. We've got out of touch with what our bodies are asking for, and it's very difficult to respond appropriately. But there are ways around this, and there are things you can do to be able to cut calories without counting calories. And my two main things to do that are bulk up on vegetables. Even people who comfort eat and binge eat will only eat so much. They will stop at some point. So I always tell everybody, start with half a plate of vegetables. Even if the other parts of your plate was pie and mash or pizza or fish and chips, you know, if half of your plate is full of vegetables, that in itself limits how much of the other food you can have, and yet your plate is still piled full and you're not going to go hungry. So that's number one. Number two is keep protein high. There should be protein of some sort in every meal and snack throughout the day, because protein not only does it build or preserve your muscle mass, which it's what you need to look toned, but also having more muscle means you burn more calories. Having more muscle gives you a higher metabolism, which everybody wants a faster metabolism, right? Because then you can eat more calories. So protein's really important, but also protein is the most filling of all the foods. If you fill up and have a decent amount of protein in your meal, then you're going to stay full, you're going to fill up quicker, and you're going to stay full for longer. So it's really simple, really. If you eat loads more vegetables and more protein than you're currently doing, you will naturally reduce the amount of calories you're eating without having to count a single one. Now, of course, people with extremely big appetites, and I have to say I've got quite a big appetite because I've got the FTO gene, which is known as the obesity gene. I really put priority on this. I make sure I eat tons of vegetables and tons of protein, and that way I can stay full without ever, I don't go hungry, and I also means I naturally don't go overboard on the calories. And as soon as you eat things that are more refined, low protein, low vegetables, let's say a couple of pieces of white toast, that's not going to keep many people full. So what you'd want to do maybe is reduce that to one piece of toast, add some protein, maybe an egg, and add some vegetables, maybe some tomatoes on the side, and that suddenly is a much better breakfast. So there you go, really simple way to cut down on calories without actually having to count calories, because calories do count, but you don't actually have to count the numbers themselves. Eat way more vegetables and some fruit and lots more salad, and eat more protein, and cut down on the less filling, sugary treats instead. Okay, I hope that was helpful. That was Polly from thefitmumformula.com.